December 2, 1984, 12:04 a.m. Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Somewhere inside the Union Carbide pesticide factory, water is entering tank 610. Tank 610 contains 42 tons of methyl isocyanate. Mike. A chemical so reactive that the safety manual says it must never, under any circumstances, contact water. At 12:04, the temperature inside the tank is already 200 degrees Celsius. The pressure relief valve blows. By 12:15, 40 tons of gas is in the air above a city of 900,000 people. Most of them are asleep. Mike, gas does not smell like poison. It smells slightly like burning rubber. By the time your eyes start burning, it is already inside your lungs. As it begins to react with moisture, your bronchial tubes begin to dissolve. People who ran north survived. People who ran south ran toward the cloud. The gas is heavier than air. It settles in the gullies, the courtyards, the places where the poor sleep. By 4 a.m., the hospitals are full. By 5 a.m., there are no more stretchers. Doctors have never treated Mike exposure before. There is no protocol. The Union Carbide medical officer refuses to give hospital staff the chemical composition of the gas. He says it is a trade secret. 3,787 people die in the first 72 hours. But I want to tell you a different story today. Not about the gas. About what happened after. Union Carbide Corporation. Headquarters, Danbury, Connecticut. One of the largest chemical companies in the world. Annual revenue in 1984, $9 billion. The man in charge, Warren Anderson. Chairman and CEO. Age 63. He had worked for Union Carbide for 38 years. The Bhopal plant had been operating since 1969. By 1982, it was in trouble. Orders were falling. The plant was being run on reduced budgets. Maintenance schedules were being skipped. The safety officer had been transferred. In May 1982, Union Carbide sent an inspection team from the United States to audit the Bhopal plant. Their report identified 61 hazards. 10 of them were classified as major. The report specifically warned that the Mike storage system was operating above safe capacity and that the scrubber system was inadequate. By late 1984, the plant was running with half its normal workforce. The refrigeration system that was supposed to keep Mike cool had been turned off to save money. The gas scrubber had been decommissioned. The flare tower was also offline. 3 independent fail-safe systems. All offline. On the same night. The workers who survived that night were the ones whose shift had ended. The workers who were on duty when tank 610 failed were the first to die. They were the ones who couldn't run far enough. By December 4th, Bhopal was on the front page of every newspaper in the world. Warren Anderson was receiving briefings in Connecticut. On December 7th, 1984, 4 days after the disaster, Warren Anderson boarded a flight to India. He landed at Delhi. His stated reason for coming, to help. To coordinate Union Carbide's relief efforts. To take responsibility. But when he landed in Bhopal, the Madhya Pradesh police were waiting for him at the airport. Warren Anderson, CEO of Union Carbide Corporation, was placed under arrest. The charges: culpable homicide not amounting to murder. Criminal negligence. Violation of the Environment Protection Act. In Bhopal, outside the police station, survivors were gathering. 15,000 people were dead. Finally, someone was being held. Anderson was processed at 2 p.m. on December 7th. And at 6 p.m., 4 hours later, he was released on bail. The bail amount, only 25,000 rupees. 25,000 rupees. For the deaths of 15,000 people. 636 rupees per life. That night, Warren Anderson was driven in a vehicle belonging to the Madhya Pradesh government to the Bhopal airport, where a government-facilitated plane was waiting. He flew to Delhi, and then to New York. Anderson never came back. 8 years later, the Indian government issued an extradition request in 1992, but the United States declined to extradite. Anderson had been living quietly in the Hamptons. He was never a fugitive. He never hid. He just left. Then Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Arjun Singh, who later became a cabinet minister in the central government, had publicly said that he received a call from the central government instructing him to release Anderson and ensure his safe departure. He named no one. He said he was just following orders. He said he had no choice. The Prime Minister of India in December 1984 was Rajiv Gandhi, who had just taken office 10 days before the disaster, following his mother's assassination. Only 40 years old, he had never held political office until then. His advisors told him that arresting the CEO of a major American corporation would damage foreign investment, and that it would send the wrong message to multinational companies at a time when India needed capital. And the Indian government chose investment. This is not a story about a government that failed to catch a fugitive. This is a story about a government that actively freed him within 24 hours of his arrest, while the bodies were still being collected. In 1989, 5 years after the disaster, the Supreme Court of India approved a settlement between Union Carbide and the Indian government. Union Carbide paid $470 million. The Indian government accepted it. Full and final settlement. The criminal charges were dropped. $824 per survivor. For a lifetime of damaged lungs, failed eyesight, chronic illness, and children born with disorders caused by genetic damage. Value in Indian currency then: just 9,300 rupees. Less than half the amount that Anderson paid for his bail. Union Carbide had annual revenues of $9 billion. They paid the equivalent of 5 weeks of revenue, and were absolved. In 2001, Union Carbide was acquired by Dow Chemical. Dow says it bears no liability for the Bhopal plant. The groundwater is still contaminated. Nobody has cleaned it. The families who couldn't afford to move anywhere else still live next to it. This is not a story about negligence. This is a story about a deliberate choice made in an office in Connecticut by people who understood exactly what they were choosing. And the Indian government made the same kind of choice when it freed Anderson. Not through negligence. Through deliberate calculation. The calculus was foreign investment. The cost was justice. This is how structural violence works. Not through a single villain. Through a chain of rational decisions made by people who each had a legitimate institutional reason to do what they did. On September 29, 2014, Warren Anderson died in Vero Beach, Florida. He was 92 years old. He died in a nursing home. He had been suffering from dementia for his final years. His obituary in American newspapers described him as a retired executive. It mentioned Bhopal. There were 4 lines on it. India's extradition request had been pending in American courts for 22 years when he died. It was never resolved. In 2010, an Indian court convicted 7 Union Carbide India executives, all of them Indian nationals, of culpable homicide. They were sentenced to 2 years. All immediately released on bail. 7 Indian employees convicted. The American CEO, nothing. The people who breathed the gas that night, and survived it, have been fighting in Indian courts for 40 years. And many of them are dead now. Of old age, or of the long consequences of what they inhaled. The legal proceedings against Dow Chemical for the site contamination are still ongoing. 40 years on. The factory is still standing. I want to be direct with you for a moment. Everything that happened in Bhopal that night was predicted. In writing. By the company's own engineers. 2 years before it happened. The document went to the people who had the authority and the resources to prevent it. And those people decided that prevention cost more than it was worth. The Bhopal disaster is taught in business schools around the world as a case study in crisis management. Not ethics. Crisis management. The question they ask is, how did Union Carbide survive the reputational damage? They survived because the Indian government helped them. And nobody was ever punished for that.